Hey there everyone, Lord Frigid here, back from vacation with another episode of Ether Raid's gameplay. This time we are in the most recently completed Astra season, leading off with the Corrin team against this blob of units. I would call this a 7th slot trap, but it really isn't one. It's missing the rally unit and second refresher elements. I did actually need to take a second turn of setup. I forgot to have Naga adjacent to Corrin, which is what allows her to take out the Idun with the power of dragon effectiveness, so that was a tad unfortunate, but oh well. After that, I was able to take out the Idun and the Mirabilis, taking out basically all of the enemy's threatening movement power. Really, the last big threat is the Seliph, just because he has such with four movement, is just so ridiculous. I did actually mess up slightly in leaving Corrin in range of the tactics room, but it didn't end up being too big of a deal. I believe Seliph does actually get bonuses to his attack and speed based on the number of spaces he moves to get to the enemy or the enemy moves to get to him. So Corrin only moving one space to get to him probably didn't result in a particularly massive speed bonus. So I guess I'm not super surprised that Corrin was able to double there, but in the moment I definitely was. Let's see. Yeah, after this, it's just pretty simple cleanup. Playing around the one move Saros is not difficult at all. I was able to use a combination of Warp Power and Divine Fang bonuses to get the Ether structures and end the map. For match number 2, I deployed the Edelgard Gale Force team against another blob of units. I guess you could even call this a prison setup, just because initially the only way the enemies have to get to you is through that second column on the left-hand side. I kicked things off by having Edelgard break a bunch of structures and just kind of sitting around at the bottom of the map and waiting for the enemies to advance. The Thasir threw me for a bit of a loop, or perhaps it was more the remaining enemies, blocking her path so she couldn't go to the right, so she instead went down to the left. It wasn't a huge deal. I was able to have Yuri take her out, but I really just was not expecting any pressure to be coming from the left-hand side, so that was a bit of a surprise. After that, really the most threatening enemies are the two remaining blue units. Edelgard can take care of Leaf no problem. I actually figured I would need Thor to take out both of them, but Yuri was actually able to handle Legendary Sita. I guess if there's anybody capable of overestimating Legendary Sita, that would definitely be me. So it was good to have Yuri able to do that. And of course, Thor was able to handle the Fjorm. I just needed to grab the Ether structure, which I was able to handle with the combination of Foul Play and Charge. For match number 3, I deployed the Dragon Wagon against another prison setup. This time, I decided to break a bunch of structures in column number 4 for a turn 1 enemy phase initiation. Note that the Edelgard here does have armored boots, so that gives her the movement to go up and take herself out against Idun. I love it when that happens. Then the remaining enemies advanced, and then I actually opted to go in with the dragons. I had Sothis take out the Noe, because the Noe versus Idun matchup is not pleasant. And then I was able to have Idun take on the Tibarn. That did leave Idun in range of Thea, but I decided that should be fine. And then actually Thea didn't even attack Idun. Apparently she had a better matchup against Sothis. I'm not really sure why that was. Actually, I'm not sure if Sothis doubled her, so that might be it. She didn't get a serious off, so I suppose that'd do it. Whereas Idun would have hit her with an ether. Okay, I guess that makes sense now. So that happened, and then I was able to have Elamine grab the ether fountain and then place Idun in range of Leaf to finish the map. In match number 4, I deployed the Dragon Wagon against this 7th slot trap setup. I decided to kick things off by breaking a bunch of structures on the left-hand side. I was initially planning a turn 3 initiation, though reviewing the footage, I think I actually could have gotten a turn 2 if I had taken advantage of the fact that Elamine still had her trace to get one attack off on that column of breakable blocks. The idea with my strategy here is that I'm taking full advantage of the fact that this team has 3 tanks to tank 3 units on the first turn of AI aggression. But then Azura had Trace and she ran away after refreshing Chrom on turn 2. So that threw me for a bit of a loop. I had to wait an extra turn to to get started, and after that I placed Naga in range of Azura. Azura does deal at least 5 damage to Naga, which prompts her to attack instead of refreshing, and then I was able to have Sothis take out Corrin and Idun take out Lysithea. And that was a very smooth start to the map, especially considering that Chrom didn't even get a refresh. But then I made a very critical error. I calculated Sigurd's damage against Idun, and I realized that he would be able to deal at least 5 pre-mitigation, even with War Dragon stacks and Elamine's Holy Ground. I think it's Holy Ground. But then I moved Naga in range, which provided an extra 3 res, and Sigurd refreshed instead of attacking, and Chrom got his to change fate off. And then I eventually decided that it would be too hard to get the ether structures while playing around Chrom, Saros, and Sigurd, so I surrendered the match. For match number 5, I deployed the Corrin Turbo team against another prison setup. This time, I believe... Yes, I actually broke a bunch of structures in the center. And then after that, I was able to go right after the duo and harmonized units on the enemy team to disable the duo's hindrance structure. And that enabled me to use my own duo skills. And from there, I was actually able to set up a situation where, very similar to the first map, I just had to play around a 1-movement Saros, Rhea, which is no problem at all. Yeah, taking out the Chrom, of course, that enables my duo skills. Azura's comes first because it's kind of positioning dependent. And then I actually forgot about Rhea's near save, and that threw me for a bit of a loop. But fortunately, I was able to have Thor take on the enemy's Saros instead of Lilith or Naga. And from there, it was pretty easy cleanup. For match number 6, I deployed the Corrin Turbo team yet again. Unfortunate that Corrin Turbo comes up so much this week, but you kind of gotta go with what the defense map gives you. And in this case, we got a lot of maps weak to Corrin Turbo. I set things up to go for a tactics room break on turn 2 after a smite from Thor onto Corrin. And after that, I just needed to break the block on the next turn and get things going by just blitzing the enemy, and I believe I ended up just trapping Veronica. So pretty simple stuff here. On turn number 4, I kicked things off by going straight after the Celica. Unfortunately, the leaf would not have gone down in 2 hits, so I did need to save him for when I had a Luna activation up. But after that, it was simple enough to just start spamming the duo and harmonized skills. I believe I had Corrin go after Saros, and after that, Lilith was able to warp in and take out the Corrin. I was actually surprised that Lilith was able to take her out in 1 hit. I thought she would need to make use of her dive bomb skill, but effective damage too good. And yeah, I was able to trap the Veronica and get a very simple cleanup on turn 5. For match number 7, I deployed the Corrin Turbo team yet again against yet another prison setup. Yeah, not a whole lot to talk about here, just Corrin doing Corrin things and enemies doing I'm trapped and can't hurt you things. Yeah, that's it. I think I may have run into some minor complications just because of the structures I destroyed. I went after the tactics room, which kind of stopped me from going after the Fjorm from over a wall. But overall, not a huge deal. I don't remember if I just retreated or if I executed a trap on the Lysithea. It's kind of looking like I executed a trap on the Lysithea, but I could be wrong. What did I do? Oh, yes, I did execute a trap on Lysithea. I had Corrin. Corrin still has her duo skill active, right? So I was able to have Corrin trap the Lysithea, and then Lilith could warp to grab the Ether Fountain, and then I grabbed the Ether Amphorae on the next turn with Corrin, and then probably had Lilith finish things off. Yeah, okay, sweet. For match number 8, I deployed the Corrin Turbo team once more. I would also call this a prison setup. The enemies can only really get to you through that narrow opening where the defense tiles are. And yeah, for whatever reason, just a lot of maps really weak to Corrin Turbo this time around. It's actually kind of interesting how you get a mix. There was a really long stretch where I just felt that I couldn't deploy the Dragon Wagon. I was actually strongly considering disbanding that team entirely because I figured, okay, well, this team doesn't seem to be working anymore. But then I had this 1 week where I deployed it for almost every match. I was like, okay, well, guess I'm keeping this around. Here, I actually went for a bit of a different method of neutralizing the duo's hindrance structure, actually destroying it instead of taking out all of the duo and harmonized units. I believe to finish things off here, I was able to get a trap on the Micaiah, with Naga coming in with a smite on Corrin to get her out of harm's way. And after that, cleanup was pretty simple. Probably another... Oh, no, Corrin finished this. Oh, no, Naga did. Okay. Faked myself out there. And then finally, in match number 9, I deployed the Corrin Turbo team against yet another prison setup. This could also be considered a return/7 slot trap, with Azura able to refresh Ophelia to extend her range, and of course Sarah using ground orders to jump out in front of Lelina. That extends the enemy's threat range considerably, but not enough for my 3 empty back row spaces. And I was able to execute a hit-and-run strike on the enemy team. I'm pretty sure I just used a combination of duo and harmonized skills to take out a couple enemies at random and then just retreated. Ophelia doesn't have 3 movement after this turn, so there was no danger in leaving Corrin just where she was. And that put her in prime position to pick off the advancing enemies on turn number 3. Yeah, so after she was able to do that, it's pretty simple cleanup to grab the ether structures. I want to say, I would have taken out the Sarah just because she has higher range and it's more annoying to play around her. Whereas Saros is quite easy, especially with Naga in play for the Divine Fang bonuses. This should be a cleanup for this turn. Yep, there it goes. And that is it. I hope you all enjoyed this episode of Aether Raid's gameplay, despite the prevalence of the Corrin Turbo team. I am hoping to get back to my once-a-week upload schedule, so we'll have to see how that goes. I don't think it'll be consistently on any one given day, which is unfortunate, but I guess that's just how it is sometimes. So, as always, thank you all so much for watching, and I will catch you next time.